Mike O'Day from Minty Garden and also partner of Knights of Degen, here with the amazing DeShone Kizer. DeShone, you want to just say a quick hello for a second?
Yeah, what's up, guys? If you guys were here 30 minutes ago, you might have saw a very similar conversation. I think it's, the nature of this Texas heat, this is to be considered the fan side chat, but the fireside I think will work for us, huh?
Yeah, so DeShone, you're most people have interesting stories. I'd say your story is more interesting than most. So a quick little highlight. DeShone Kizer was starting quarterback of Notre Dame, starting quarterback in the NFL, and is now going on to build a business. Not just any business, though, leaning into like Web3 and crypto stuff. So I really want to dive into a lot of this journey and unpack some of like your own learning lessons, but I think some context into One and None and the platform that you're building is like interesting way to kick things off.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, played quarterback at the University of Notre Dame, studied finance there, always been entrepreneurial. Started my first business my sophomore year in college and decided to dissolve it once I got out to, getting drafted by the Browns. But from that, really explored the NFL with business in mind. So, bounced around from major market to major market and meeting some influential people. I really started thinking about ways that I could kind of leverage my network to be able to, take whatever idea that I was going to have as a future startup and take it to another level, and stumbled upon, this concept of One of None.
And what is One of None?
So One of None is a platform that takes physical limited edition pieces like art, fashion, collectibles, and we marry them in one-to-one relationships to NFTs. And then we use this vaulting infrastructure to allow collectors this ability to have what we call hybrid ownership, where it's pretty much one and the same, where you have this opportunity to leave your physical good in the vault. While it's there, you have this Ethereum token that represents the right to redeem that physical good at any point in time that you can go and exchange or bridge into metaverses, or you can redeem your physical good out of the vault. If it's a piece of art put on the wall, luxury good, wear it. And while that physical good is being redeemed, we put a non-transfer hook in our safe transfer protocol, which locks that token to your non-custodial wallet. So you're still able to show it off, but you just can't exchange it unless you send that physical good back into us. We authenticate it, grade it, update the metadata to kind of show that new provenance and wear and tear, and ultimately, keep that one-to-one relationship like never before to a physical good.
So there's no way you make it to the NFL if sports are not a vital part of your upbringing, right? So like you played, that was probably one of your main focuses. Did you always know that you had that like entrepreneurial like nature within you as well? Like even in the time where like sports were definitely your primary focus. And I'm talking like this is pre-college era,
Yeah. I think that for me, sports has always been a means to a way. So I was, while most high school athletes or amateur athletes before high school, their goal is to be some professional athlete. Whether my dad's goal was to do this or not, his message to me, and I remember the day vividly, was 5th grade. My dad's a police officer. He picked me up in his police car after school every day, and we had to rush to an AAU practice down in Lima, Ohio. I'm from Toledo originally, and it's like an hour-and-a-half drive, and I just wanted nothing to do with it. And I was throwing a fit as we were on our way home to grab my clothes, and my dad pulled the car over and said, "Look, son, I don't have money for you to go to college. So you're either going to the military or you're getting, a college scholarship off of sports." So that kind of pushed me in the direction that sports was always a means to getting the best education I can possibly get, not necessarily the means to making millions of dollars. So while most get really excited about an Alabama offer, I was most excited about a Notre Dame offer. We're the #1 business school in the country at the time.
Because of the education that provided.
Exactly. And to have that opportunity to play in the NFL, great. That's cherry on top. But my goal was to get the best education possible. So after making a decision to get there, I became a finance major and enrolled in, at the time, the #1 business school in the country. And quite frankly, my freshman year was terrible. Couldn't really throw a football, but didn't really care too much about it because I was there to get a good degree. And finally get to my sophomore year, and by luck of an injury, got thrown out on the field. And from that, turned it into 2 pretty good seasons that ended up, making me a draft pick in the 2017 draft. But I think that all is to kind of point towards this thought that while, the NFL ended up being something I poured a lot into and was most excited about, the relationships and the education I was able to get at the Mendoza College of Business is really what, was really going to push my professional career past the NFL.
Yeah, I think there are so many lessons at whatever level of sports that can be applied to wider places in life and entrepreneurship and building a business. I guess, like, very broadly, what are some of your biggest takeaways between the parallels of like you achieved excellence to a level that most people couldn't even imagine, right? Like, it's undisputable. You were at the top of a field. That translates into life, right? So
yeah, and there's a lot of sexy things I can answer to that, and I can tell you all these great things about how the work ethic needed and the intellectual ability to play quarterback at a high level, how that translates over to business. But I think that the thing that I've learned the most recently is that when you're a professional athlete, there's this standard that's set in terms of training, and especially in the off season, that puts you in a different mindset on what you consider hard work. For some, they leave college and they go and they do investment banking and they work 80-hour work weeks, and that's great. And I commend them, and that's awesome. But obviously, that's a different type of work. What we do is something that really pushes your body to these limits.
in your mind.
Yeah, in your mind, to these limits that you really aren't really used to getting to. So as I try to transition from that into business, I think one of the hardest things one of the things that's been the most difficult to me in that transition is to take a break, because in football there's this expectation that you're gonna you gotta rest. You hear about LeBron, who takes these long naps throughout the days, and even just with Spencer, earlier we're sitting in the back. Spencer hopped up on a table and just laid down for 30 minutes. That's a part of being a pro athlete. You got to rest your body to be able to perform at the highest level. Well, trying to take that mindset and come over to this where I don't feel like I need to rest. That concept of burnout that we hear in the Web3 world it became really real to me really fast. So I think that pulling that over into the business world, I think that the number one thing that I'm trying to learn is like how to be a good professional businessman rather than just a professional athlete who's trying to do business.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, the mindset is there, right? It's obvious in conversation. So we're gonna go here. So your rookie season, you started really hot, 4-0 in the preseason. Then you guys had a forgettable regular season. What are some lessons that are learned from 0-16 first year in the NFL? Like that's a really unenvious place to be, right? Like
First off, there's a lot of lower level lessons such as this, being in front of media, to be a 21-year-old who's leading an organization, $1 billion organization in the NFL, to come in here every Wednesday and get in front of a group of beat writers and local news outlets, and then you get the NFL Network who shows up when you get to 0-12 and they want to know why you're 0-12. I think it, obviously grooms you into being able to handle this kind of situation, whether it's good or bad. It keeps you even keeled. That's one of the biggest lessons that I've been able to, use to help lead my team at One Have Done, as well as, publicly represent us as I go out and do things like this. But another big lesson that I learned is how to lose the right way. When you win as much as you win to get to the NFL, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of losers who make it to the NFL. Most people who are in the NFL play on winning teams, and they played on they won state championships in high schools, and they played on elite AAU teams or whatever it may be. You don't really learn how to learn from losses. Instead, it becomes really emotional and really difficult, and your competitiveness. The lesson that you try to use, or the lesson you try to have in that loss, typically means go work harder. And instead, after you go 0-8 and then 0-10 and 0-12, you quickly realize that the lessons that you have to learn off of a loss typically have to do with preparation and mindset and camaraderie amongst the people who are losing with you. And I think that those lessons are things that I try to apply to my leadership within my own team now at One of None every day. Trying to make sure that as we ride these ups and downs of this crazy roller coaster of Web3, that we can stay as even keel as possible, and continue to take the proper steps forward.
For sure, and I don't think like any business can ultimately succeed without those micro failures that are in the moment, right? Like even in the context of the NFL, like some of the greatest of all time had really bad rookie seasons, right? So and then they learn from that and they grow, and I think there's so many parallels to that, to like building a business, and it's like it's persisting and learning from that and getting on with your day. What so you had the platform in the NFL, you're exposed to a lot of like different high-level conversations, even in your time there, because you were just curious about it. What's the moment that like piqued your interest on like Web3 stuff?
Yeah, so contrary to most, I fell into Web3 with a business already in mind that we were already building and developing and researching.
It wasn't Web3; it was the different business that Web3 enabled.
Exactly. To me, we were building a platform that would take these limited edition drops of art and fashion and collectibles and launch them onto a marketplace that would also facilitate the secondary exchange. And the idea is that if you could help creators launch on a platform that also could provide the secondary exchange, that you might be able to capture a percentage of those resales and then provide a royalty back to that original creator. Completely Web 2. And as you can imagine, there's a lot that went into that, from inventory management to authentication to tracking provenance and ultimately creating this digital life of this physical good. So as we then, fell into the wave of kind of the spike at the end of 2020 of Web3 and the NFTs, quickly realized that the technology that was powering that just made it all so seamless, made it all so easy, and added almost a new value to that digital life that we were looking to create in that Web2 business. So my exploration was very, I had a tight lens on how to go about that technology, which for me, I think helped me a lot throughout that crazy bull market that we were just in, because I wasn't chasing the shiny object. Instead, I had a specific solution that I was looking to bring to the space, and ultimately was able to learn from a lot of the ups and downs that other NFT projects were able to have during that time, and now be able to bring that into something that once again was built well before my knowledge of Web3.
Yes, so the nature of like connecting anything physical digital, right? Like that's an immense problem to solve in itself. I guess what in the early days of building this company, what are some of the lessons learned in solving that gap, right? Because the nature of that, even like simple sentence, is there's a gap in how we connect the internet with the real world.
Yeah, as we were building this, we realized quickly there's going to be a lot of other people who are going to try to get into that physical digital twinning space. And you start to look how everyone else was doing it at the end of last year. So, you had the burn protocol, where we're going to hold on to this physical good. We have this NFT that represents it. It's going to exchange X amount of times until someone presses redeem. And then, once that physical good's out of the vault, burn the token, it's over. We hope that physical good comes back into us for us to issue a new token. As you can imagine, with someone who's coming from a physical lens, that wasn't our goal. Our goal is to track that total lifetime value of that physical good. So by burning that token, I could just store that data and try to put it onto this new token or reissue it, but that's not a true one-to-one marriage. So that didn't really work for us. The next is like, all right, let's give you both at the same time, right? Here's a certificate of ownership, and here's also the physical good. And I'm going to trust that you're going to exchange those together, or even worse, I'm going to embrace when you decouple the physical and the digital and allow you to sell the physical good and hold on to the digital. Well, to us, once again, our goal wasn't to provide collectors this authenticity token. Our goal is to allow these creators of these physical limited edition pieces to access the lifetime value of those goods. So once again, we lose out on that opportunity to keep that one-to-one relationship. So after a lot of time studying that and studying the burn protocol, we landed on this new way of being able to keep that true one-to-one relationship without burning the token, by putting that non-transfer onto the token and locking that token to your wallet while the physical good's redeemed. And then obviously once that physical good comes back into the vault, we'll take that non-transfer off and allow you to go and pass on the token that represents it, effectively tracking each and every transaction, whether that physical good is in the vault or redeemed.
Yeah, so I mean, and another amazing angle to all of this is so many products, right? Once they're released to the open market, they really appreciate and value, and the initial creator never sees any of that growth. How are you guys thinking about working with brands in that way, where they're able to see meaningful return on like their product being more well received than they initially anticipate?
Yeah, I think that this model is something that can become a lot more approachable to both collectors and creators, right? When we think about trying to bridge more people into the space, I think that by taking what these physical creators have been able to build over time, the brand, the materials, all the R&D that goes into that physical piece, and then telling them to scrap that, and here's a new set of standards to go drop one of these NFTs. You got to drop 10,000 of them. There needs to be some sort of generative art that's attached to it. There needs to be this utility, this roadmap, these milestones, to be able to now say, while that was hot during this big bull market, not a lot of people were interested in that on the physical side. So for us now to give them an opportunity to kind of dabble in and bridge their collectors into the space with a model that's a little more approachable to their collectors and a little more realistic to their creation style, I think it becomes a lot easier for us now to get some of these artists, these brands who have already passed on their opportunity to do their typical NFT drop, and allow them to kind of dabble in with a 1 of 1, a 1 of 5, a 1 of 10, a 1 of 25, something that's a little easier for them to soak in.
Taking this conversation a little bit more broadly again, so thinking about like teamwork, how does teamwork within like business world and Web3 as you see it differ from like collaboration and teamwork in sports stuff?
I think it's a lot of the same, actually. I think that specifically within Web3 and specifically within community-led businesses, you tend to think that everyone is the quarterback, the receiver, the tight end, the running back in alignment at the same time on the offensive side. And what I think we're all kind of realizing as we kind of turn these communities into bigger businesses is that everyone has to get back into the role. There's a reason why quarterbacks play quarterback and receivers play receiver. And I think that that's something that while I was embracing the collaboration and encouraging my team initially to bring as many ideas to the table as possible, now as we've shaped the vision, it's getting back to playing your role and then understanding seniority and hierarchy within those decisions. Otherwise, you find yourself just standing in the same position and running in the same space and not able to take any steps forward because there's so many new ideas and so many shiny objects. You have to have guys who are focused in on one piece and moving that forward, and then leveraging someone else's expertise in another position in the business to be able to come together and cohesively go build something that can be transformative.
So this is your first business that you've built, that you're working on. What are some, I guess, key takeaways in the early stages here? Something surprising.
Fundraising isn't fun, and that's probably the biggest.
Fun in fundraising is just how you spell it.
When I first left the league, I thought it would be this really unique opportunity to go out there and talk to all the major VCs out there and have a good time doing so, but quickly realized that it is a grind.
Did your pitch evolve a little bit through all these conversations?
It changed everyone I got into. You go in and you test an answer, and they give you their response to that answer, and you're like, let's make this little quarter turn on that, and then
big game of experimentation.
Exactly.
What's something that you're focused on right now, experimenting on?
For us right now, we're really just experimenting with product types and categories. The model itself, the infrastructure that we built, the inventory management system that's directly tied to the blockchain is something that can be a part of a lot of different industries out there, from collectibles to art to fashion. So for us, we're doing a little bit of it all. At launch, we're having a couple pieces that are 500 pounds and 7 foot tall and 4 foot wide, and we'll also have a couple pieces that are t-shirts. And for us to kind of test the redemption and fulfillment of all of those, and being able to kind of stretch our imaginations on the things that we can work on, I think will ultimately allow us to listen to the market and then kind of fall into whatever place makes the most sense for us.
Yeah. More like wider trends outside of like one and none stuff. What's stuff that's happening in Web3 that you're like, that's awesome, that's cool, I want to just learn more about that?
I love this social token kind of push right now. Obviously, I was just up here with Spencer, and they have an unbelievable business with Galaxy. But I like this concept of, as I came into the league and got to sit down with my agent pre-draft and start talking to our marketing team, I was pushing this message of like, I don't want cash. Like, I want to bet on myself. I'm going to be great. So don't go get me a cash deal. Go find me as many deals out there as you can get that give me equity. I want to bet on myself. And at the time, the only way that I could bet on myself was to go take a smaller brand and hopefully convince them to, give me a percentage of the company to go push them. But now there's this new concept of betting on yourself through, these fan tokens and these social tokens that ultimately I think will adjust the way that athletes and entertainers go about structuring any deal out there. Rather than, taking that upfront cash and representing something that you have no ownership to. Now it becomes a lot easier for you now to launch a token and participate in tokens of other businesses out there that ultimately allow you to bet on yourself and drive equity and drive incentives that are aligned across the board rather than just being a cover photo for someone's brand.
Yes. So even within One and None, I mean, it's an ecosystem, right? Do you guys have plans to launch some sort of social token that powers that?
Yeah, we'll get there. A big part of what we're trying to do is be at that Web 2.5 level for now. We want to be as approachable as possible. And as soon as you introduce a token, obviously there's an education curve that happens there. So at launch, we'll focus in on this one-to-one relationship in which you have this NFT. It's directly connected to a physical product. At any point in time, you can redeem that good. At any point in time, you can take that redeemed good and send it back into the vault. And to me, that is a way that my dad, my grandpa, my uncle, those people can understand that when there's that direct correlation. And then once we can, figure out what that looks and feels like and make sure that, our education is at, top tier, then we'll start to think about things like, tokenizing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the we'll get there answer, because even in the base level of your business, there's so many different kind of problems that have to be solved that are very distinct. How do you mentally go about, because as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing. You're solving problems, right? Testing, learning, solving problems. How do you go about thinking about your business, which has a lot of different complex components from physical distribution, fulfillment, working with creators, all the new blockchain stuff? How do you kind of go about isolating those components to properly solve the problems that each of them demand?
Yeah, I think that, one, you have to divide and conquer, right? So similar to what we were saying, before. At first, we were taking in all this information, and everyone had an opinion, and I loved it, and it was awesome. It was these unbelievable whiteboard sessions that would literally go for 14, 15, 16 hours of just sitting there and hashing everything out. But eventually, you have to figure out where you're at and define yourself, and then go after that one specific goal in mind. And with that, you have to divide up and go after them one by one. So in terms of testing and experimenting, as we approach launch, there isn't much of that anymore. You got to be who you are. You got to get through this first cycle, and then from there, take that list of all these new ideas that everyone here has, and see if you can apply each and every one of those to the business. And then from there, hand them to the respective leader of whatever that idea comes from, whether it be tech, whether it be marketing and branding, whether it be the physical product creation, RFID chips, vaulting, whatever it may be, to kind of push that forward. I think right now we're more focused in on solidifying what we have, and then we'll continue to test and experiment after.
Yeah, so you guys are at such an exciting place with One and None, right? Like it's just I don't want to say it. You can say it if you want. But what are you most excited about in the coming couple months?
Well, one launch, excited.
That's what I didn't want to say. It's not news. It's been announced. But.
Yeah, we're launching at NFT NYC in the next couple weeks here. Have a physical event. We think that the best way for us to kind of educate what we're doing is to take these physical, one-of-one pieces of art, the fashion, the collectibles, and put them right alongside the digital screen of the NFT that is directly correlated with it, and then be able to educate a collector who might be walking off of the street saying, hey, this is your typical art gallery, here's your physical pieces, but rather than going home with this piece and boxing it up and finding a way to get it home, here's a token that represents it. And then that allows them to go and purchase that token, leave it, we'll take it back to the vault. If they want to redeem it, great. If they see it as an asset and they don't have the wall space for it, or they aren't looking to wear that item, that that fashion piece that they were able to purchase, leave it in the vault with us, and here's the token that represents it. And whether you want to redeem it at a later date or make an exchange on it, you use the token to do so. So I'm really excited for that, to get to market. I've been telling this story over and over and over. I mean, we met a year ago, and I was telling you a lot of the same exact examples, but as you can imagine, that infrastructure, the vault, the inventory management, the RFID technology, the authentication, it takes time. And I got impatient a couple times along the way, but really excited to now be able to launch at a time in which everyone's kind of thinking about what's that next wave of NFTs. And I think that there's a lot of people who are going to be playing in this space, but I think that we'll come in from a very thoughtful angle.
Yeah, so I mean, I would bet on you to go on and do some really, really cool things. And I mean cool meaning like notable, like just like cool. Is there any product or partnership that you'd be like, this is my dream, X unique, I mean, one of none?
In terms of some that we're working on now, or things that
no, like your dream
to?
one, like piano in some like situation that's, I don't know. I don't want to eat thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm a big classic car collector, and there's a lot of really cool, in that golden age of the mid '60s into the early '70s. There's a lot of old cars that are now kind of hitting this new wave of they call them resto mods, of being able to put in a bunch of new technology, new engines, and they ride like brand new cars. My goal and my dream is to kind of take my childhood dream of a really nice, cool classic car in my garage and collab it with something that's super cool and super new, super trendy. You saw Kith do something with BMW. Our goal is to go find what's that next Kith BMW, but rather than doing it with something that's brand new in 2022, let's go back and go grab like a 67 Chevy or some sort of a 69 Pontiac or something in that range, and be able to bring one of these new age creators and turn it into something that's truly one of none.
Awesome. So launch, that's a moment in time. What happens after launch?
From there, we kind of have a bit. It's about a 3.5-4 month roadmap of rolling out products. So we have 6 collections that'll go live at that gallery on June 22nd. There'll be 15 collections on display, so a lot of coming soon from there. And from there, we'll start to kind of focus in on different product categories, from photography to fashion to sports memorabilia. And our goal is really to kind of activate around cultural moments. So obviously being at NFT NYC at that specific moment there, and I need to stop saying that here at Consensus, but at that specific moment there, we'll focus in on art. After that, we'll focus in on photography. We have a couple really cool collaborations and partnerships with some fashion brands to get into fashion as we head into New York Fashion Week and things like that, and then kind of restart the cycle at Art Basel and continue to go back into art. So our goal is to really just get the model locked in and get the the MVP out there. Get collectors to really understand what we're doing, raise a bit of money, scale quickly, and then start to ride that cycle of those different cultural moments throughout the year.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite questions to ask people. So even in this journey that's relatively new, what's something that just you look back on already and it makes you smile?
The T-shirt collab with you and Blake. So we did this. This really was a test for us. We wanted to go out without a token and come up with something really cool with a really unique artist, to really see how people may take an ordinary product and turn it into an asset. So as we came out to Brooklyn right before training camp last year. Blake does this unbelievable piece right there live for us and decides to apply it 5 different ways to 5 different T-shirts. And what I'm most excited looking back on is that while it was so just normal to us at the time that 40% of those T-shirt collectors out of 115 shirts decided to vault their T-shirt, looking back on that now and now seeing how that then shaped a lot of the decision making that we're doing now with a lot of these upper echelon products, I think that it is it's quite crazy to think that we were able to take what was a $10 blank, apply this unbelievable graphic that Blake was able to put together for us, and then take these collectors and ask them whether or not they wanted to vault or redeem. And while I expected almost 100% of them to redeem a T-shirt and go wear it around, to have 40% of them decide to leave it in the vault really was something that was really cool at the time, but really shaped a lot of the decisions of what we're making now.
Yeah, and now the physical of that painting hangs in your office and has been shown on a lot of Zoom calls, so it gets a little bit of love too.
Yeah.
In our final moments here, any closing thoughts, parting words of wisdom?
I guess the only thing I would say here is that there were so many people who were in the sports space who wanted to dive in head first while the market was hot. And I feel like as we hit into this bear market, both in the traditional finance world as well as, this NFT space, there's a lot of athletes who are kind of moving away from it. That cash grab is now out of it. But to me, what I'm most excited about is that while we're in this bear market, you're really seeing the true colors of a lot of, the athletes who are looking to activate. And while I thought there was going to be just no movement, what I'm most excited about is that there's like 3, 4, 5 projects that are getting ready to drop here from some really respectable and admirable athletes that I think will really re-spark the thought of the cash grab. It's gone. There's no more of that. I think every athlete out there knows it.
It's work.
Everyone is. There's no longer the go post one time, put a bunch of people in the Discord, and you're going to make a bunch of cash. And I think that the thoughtful projects that we're getting ready to see out of both the NBA, NFL, and a couple MLB guys that we've had conversations with will really change the thought and the perspective that people may have on athletes in the space. I'm really excited for that.
Now the time's ticking up, but I think we're over. No, I appreciate all of the wise words, and I mean you're so thoughtful about how you've gone through all of this, and you're very articulate in how you're approaching thinking about business and life, and appreciate you taking the time to share all that with us here.
It was always a great time. I appreciate you, man. Cool.